Welcome to the Period Besties podcast with Stasha and Katie. Think about it as chatting with your best friends about all the TMI stuff you've never talked about before with two period coaches who've been helping hormones collectively for over 20 years now. I'm Stasha.
And I'm Katie, and we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like in the world of menstrual coaching. From puberty to menopause and everything in between, we're here to show you how period coaching can save the day. We'll share practical tips and information you can put to immediate use to improve your hormones and happiness.
We're removing the mystery, ending the taboo, and shining a light on just how powerful period coaching can be.
So whether you need period coaching or are considering becoming a period coach yourself, these episodes are going to help you. We'll share stories, coach live on air, and bring smart, savvy guests to share their wisdom too. Let's start today's episode.
Hey, Stasha. Just a quick note to say I binge listened to all your podcast episodes yesterday, and I love it. It's a fucking amazing podcast. You guys are rocking it. I just got a sense when I was listening to that episode, I was like, yeah, this is world changing. And just feel awesome and amazing about the things you're creating in this world because they are really special and you need to keep doing it. Okay. Bye for now. Lots of love. Ciao.
Shout out to Jennifer Lang for that amazing testimonial. And don't forget, you can leave one for us. You can even just DM us a voice memo. Welcome to the Period Besties podcast. Today we have an extra special celebration episode for you. We're going to do a little behind the scenes of the first 4 months of the podcast. So we've officially hit over 1,000 downloads. We've gotten some amazing guests on here, and some of the questions that we've had have been just like, how did you guys get this started? What was it like? What were your experiences? What did you learn? And so we thought it would be fun to do just kind of a oh my gosh, we did it. We've done 4 months of this podcast. So we thought we'd have a fun little celebration episode with you guys today, give you some sneak peeks behind the scenes.
Yes, I can't believe it's been 4 months already because we've literally been talking about this, it feels like for years.
Yes.
So the fact that it's 4 months of just getting that content out, we've recorded more than that and interviews, and we have lots of amazing episodes coming your way. But the fact that this milestone, it feels like such a big milestone after all the behind the scenes things that we've been doing for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking back at some of the dates. We started recording these interviews last year. First interview we recorded was at the very beginning of November of 2023. So it was the November 9th, 2023 with Lisa. So it does feel like it's been a long time because it kind of has been in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
A couple of months putting everything together before we started doing those interviews. So really we started in, I think, October, putting together the ideas, what did we want to do? What did we want to call it? What did we want to, all that kind of, what software were we going to use, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it has been a good solid chunk of time before we went live where we were just doing the behind the scenes stuff, which I think people underestimate. So if you're, thinking about starting your own podcast, just start getting the behind the scenes stuff. What software are you going to use? Do you have a mic? Are you going to do video or just audio? What, names, start looking at different names and that kind of thing. Cause I know that was a tough one for us.
Honestly, it was easier to figure out the software than it was to find and figure out what we wanted our name to be. Because we knew that we were talking about TMI information and we knew that some of it was, taboo and that we wanted to make it comfortable and inviting. So finding that name felt like a big task, at least for me. It was okay, this, we've got to hit this perfectly-ish so that it conveys what we're trying to do in a fun way rather than such a serious, hard, this is going to be hard work. We want it to be fun.
Yeah. And we had long lists of names. And then I know Chris and I were driving around when we were doing some of this stuff. And so I would be driving and I'd be like, Chris, look up this name, see if it's already used. Chris, look up this name. So he'd be Googling in the passenger seat, looking up names while you and I were talking through ideas. And he'd be like, nope, that one's in use. Or, well, it hasn't been used in 3 years, but there is a URL for it. So
I know it turned out to be more difficult than I thought, the name process, which I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. I used to work in publishing and titles of books, like all of that, right? It all takes a while to figure out. But I remember when you were driving around and I was Googling and we were trying to figure this out. And even the best thoughts always come to me when I'm walking. So I'd go for a walk and I would do audio text to myself like, okay, I like this name, remember this, Google it when you get back. So we were doing all of that behind the scenes. And then also trying to figure out a lot of the intro and outro things that we did. That took a long time too, because it was kind of the first things we were doing together, figuring out our vibe and how we communicate like on a podcast is a little different than how we communicate on the phone or just a Zoom chat. So I thought that was, looking back, I was like, if we were to record that now, it would be so much quicker and easier because we have that vibe going on that we didn't at the beginning because it was new for us, even though we've done tons of things together before.
Yeah, it was a lot of like, I don't know, is this going to work out this way? I hope it does. We're putting it in the intro.
Exactly. And then we had to redo it anyways because we hired our amazing sound engineer who helped us put such beautiful music together for us. And he's like, I need you to record this separately.
Yeah, I need you to go into your closet, close the door, take your mic, re-record this in like each sentence in like 10 different ways. So give me each sentence that you're saying, but with like high energy, calm, funny, like give me a couple different versions of each one and then I'll put it all together. So it was really, we did all of that work to put it together and then we ended up having to redo it anyway, which is good. You learn that lesson. Like, it was like the first time when I wrote my first book, I wrote all of it, transition paragraphs and all this stuff. And then while I was writing Bloody Brilliant Business, I was like, well, I'm not going to write any transition paragraphs because now I know that the whole book will be rearranged by the editor before. So I'll just wait and do those later. So it's like I learned that about book writing and now I've learned this about podcasting or setting something up, maybe just wait until you've got all the information to do the like final recording.
Yeah, but I think it was good practice because it really helped us figure out the eye contact, right? Do I go next? Are you going next? That's something that when I'm listening back to the podcast too, I definitely see the maturity of that as well, like our communication and knowing like, oh, Stasha still has something more to say here. I'm going to continue to pause. Versus at the beginning, I think we talked over each other a lot more than we do now.
Yeah, I also don't necessarily mind that. Sometimes I think some of the funniest conversations come out of those, like, oh my God, I have this idea and so do you, and we're just going to ramble them all out right now.
100%, yeah.
But it was great. And then we got such amazing guests. So if you haven't gone back through the archives, scroll back down because we have some incredible guests. And I've been paying attention to the numbers. And it's funny how some of them just keep vying for the top most downloaded. So far of the guests that we've released to you, there are some guests still hidden in the wings. But of the ones we've released to you so far, the top 3 are Lisa Henderson Jack, Dr. Laura Bryden, actually Ricky Lake and Abby Epstein, and then Holly Grigg Spall also keep floating up. So there's really kind of the top 4 and all of them kind of keep ebbing and flowing as to the most downloaded guest interviews.
I love that. I feel like, especially because Lisa was our very first guest interview. And I remember standing where I'm standing right now. I wasn't in my office. I was like, I need to stand for this. The energy, like feeling calm, because it was the first one that we did. And it was incredible. Mm-hmm. She's such a great person to interview. And I just thought it was such magic when we were done. I really felt like this is exactly what we're trying to do and convey and put out in the world. And the fact that like she was our first person we interviewed and she's like the #1 interview downloaded is pretty kismet.
Yeah, she's really high up there. And for a minute, I thought, well, that's because she's the first interview. But then when Dr. Laura Brydon's interview came out, it just shot right up. And I was like, okay, all right, well, it's not just timing. It's also how excited people are for different guests. So it was quite interesting to see. But then she never really went down either. So you would see new guests and you would see their downloads really skyrocket. But then you would see like those first few interview people also go up. So I realized, people would come in, see a new interview, and then go back and listen to ones that they'd missed. So you could kind of see through the numbers how a new guest would come on or a new episode would post and it would pop up to the top. But then the next day or two, some of those older episodes and interviews would also start to rise up again.
It's really cool to look at the back end and see what episodes and how many people are downloading, what time of day, like when they're downloading. We got some really cool reviews. So I want to read one. We'll start with one. I'll read one and then we'll do some more. I think the episode that we have done that's gotten the most feedback for me on my end was the one we just released about our personal thyroid journeys. People in the comments, in the DMs, I think a lot of people are not necessarily in our comment section, which is okay. You can find us in the DMs, but just like, thank you so much. Like this brings so much clarity. I thought I was the only one experiencing like the brain fog. And so this review kind of goes along with that. It's from Abby. We got 5 stars. And she basically was talking about the thyroid one in particular. Loved the thyroid journeys episode. I've also have told my husband to raise the flag when I start acting out because how would I even know? Even as an aware person, my baseline for normal kind of goes out the window with hormonal stuff. So she's referring to in the conversation when I was, and I think you were also talking about the brain fog and how when you're in it, you don't even realize that you're in the brain fog because it's just how you wake up every day. It's how you're walking through the world. And there are certain things that I have told my husband and certain people in my life, like if I tell you it's taking me an hour to write an email, it's time to call my endocrinologist, right? Like just different things. So I love that what we shared has also helped this woman share with her partner so that they can become more aware together, because it is hard when you're in the thick of it to know that you're in the thick of it. That's why thyroid is so hard, I think, in general. So I love that. So thank you, Abby, for sharing and writing in with that information, because I totally agree. And I think if more and more of us could just say, I don't know why I'm feeling like this, but when I feel like this, I'm not feeling my best. I'm going to tell you, instead of taking it on as like, I'm being mean to you, reflect back. You don't seem like you're in a great spot today. Or are you having brain fog? Like, do you need extra support? Like, how can I help you? And this will really help shift conversations that often are one-sided, right? Like, I know when I'm raging and I'm having PMS and like, my husband always thinks I'm mad at him. I'm like, no, it's on your calendar, dude.
Yeah, I got a message, just doing a little quick Insta here, but I got a message from the interview with Natalie from Daisy and Tina. I got a message from Official Moonin that just said, love, love, love this. Little review on that episode, which was a fun episode. I learned a ton with that one.
Oh, me too.
And then the deep luteal phase, I think actually the deep luteal phase of the 5-phase episodes we did, I can double check the numbers real quick, but I'm pretty sure that was the one that had the most downloads of the 5 phases, or it might have been tied with menstrual. I got some good reviews on that one as well. I am Vanessa said, hey girl, love your content. Keep up the great work. And then a few other amazings. Thank you so much. This was fantastic. So, just exciting to see, some interaction on that and how people are really liking it.
And I think that the deep luteal really hit home for people.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much sense. Like you feel so different the few days after ovulation than you do the few days before your period's arriving. We must look at that as 2 different phases in a sense to really support us in a better way and to help us in a better way. So I've definitely had some conversations with friends who listen in. They're like, this makes so much sense. Why did I never think of it this way before?
Mm-hmm.
Like that gradual decline. And then it's like, you're really declining, like rest, nourishment, taking care of yourself, all of the things.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's the cycle overview. The episode we did that just did a little explainer of all 5 phases. That one actually does have more downloads than any of the individual phase episodes, which I thought was kind of cool because we thought that, but we weren't really sure like what to expect. So it's just been really fascinating to see how the numbers came in. And actually, one thing that I found fascinating was most of our views are from the United States, right? No surprise there. We're both in the States. So that's not surprising. But I mean, it is a huge 71% of our viewerships are in the United States. But Canada is our first runner-up. Canada is our largest outside of the United States viewership, with Australia just behind it, and then France. So Canada, Australia, France, and then we go United Kingdom, India, Ireland, Netherlands, Thailand, Spain, Germany, Pakistan, Poland, Sweden, New Zealand, Russia, Australia, Ghana, Italy, Costa Rica, Philippines, Portugal, Bahamas, Israel, Iceland, and Mexico.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Right?
Okay, well, I grew up in New Hampshire, so hello, Canada. Thanks, Canadians. I feel like honorary sometimes, the way that I say my R's.
Same. I mean, I'm from upstate New York, so I used to skip school and go to Canada all the time.
Oh my God. Yeah, you were much closer. I was a good 3.5 hours, I think, 4 hours from the border, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember senior skip day. They called all the parents, and they called my parents and were like, "Your daughter's not in school." My mom was like, "No, she's in Canada. It's senior skip day. Did you miss the memo? Did you guys not know?"
So funny.
So anyway, shout out to our Canadian siblings up there. Thank you very much.
I love it. That's so cool. I also want to say how like nervous, sweaty I got the day that Ricki Lake was on, because we grew up with her.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she was on before Oprah, like her talk show, watching Hairspray. And then as being, period coaches and working in the menstrual world, the business of being born and the business of birth control, Weed for the People, like following her career. And she's so lovely.
Yeah.
So nice, so sweet, so smart and funny. And I think I was really nervous to interview her, not realizing that she was going to be interviewing me.
Yes,
and like spilling my guts to the world. So I thought that was like a beautiful synchronicity that we had with that whole experience, because I was just so excited about being able to really talk to her about her work and what her impact that she wants to have on the world, because I've always felt like that behind even, some of the random guests on the Ricki Lake show, it was always about her making an impact and helping make change. So it was really incredible to have her on our Zoom together and like seeing her. And Abby is also incredible with all of the directing that she's done, and the two of them together, like that best friend energy, like that's what our podcast is. Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah, it was so much fun having a set of besties on with us. Like, I would love to do more besties episodes. Like, you and your bestie with me and my bestie. Let's have a conversation.
Ooh, that's a really good idea.
Right? I had so much fun with both of them. And, I know Ricki Lake from the John Waters movies. Like, I watched all of those. I loved her work on that. In fact, it's funny, not too long ago, maybe like 2-3 years ago, we stayed in a hotel in California that has like really super themed rooms. And one of the rooms is a John Waters room. So like not all that long ago, we binge watched a whole bunch of his movies because they're all in that room and there's a TV on the ceiling above the bed. And we just like kicked back and watched like a whole bunch of them. And then it was like the next year that I had the opportunity to sponsor the LA premiere of The Business of Birth Control. So it was so funny because I was like, I just like had just binged all of these like really super young Ricky Lake as like a kid almost movies. And then I was like, oh, right. But then all this time has passed and all these things have happened. So it was a fun little kind of time capsule moment to do that. And then to have her on the podcast, totally forgetting about how she had that entire talk show. And then to see her so deftly start asking questions, like she hadn't dropped a beat of knowing how to talk show. It was amazing.
It was so amazing. And honestly, I just like you can feel her happiness coming through the screen. It was contagious. I'm, just as a woman getting older as well, like watching somebody who's 55, I think, like just living her best life. I was like, that is such inspiration as well. Like as we just get older, like life is getting better.
Yeah.
So I really like that part too. That's like not necessarily about periods, but longevity and health, obviously, right? It was really cool to just be like, yes, like you're thriving right now and you're so happy. And it was really incredible just to hear that from somebody who is in that next phase of her life too.
Yeah, something that she said and something I think that was really echoed through a lot too was just how brazen, right? Like she was talking about how she got kicked off the board because she did the business of being born and how she started getting kicked off of things because, she was disrupting the system. And then to see how many of our guests, started their businesses because they were just it was not working for them to be existing in the current, capitalist status quo, hustle culture work environments. And then seeing how so many of our guests and people were really, the day they stopped caring so much about being, proper and fitting in, and then just started going, you know what, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I love, and just really went like all in on it. And how that worked out so incredibly well for them and how much happier they were. You could see it, you could hear it coming through in their voice, that like transition where they were talking about why they got started in this interest, right? A lot of our episodes with guests, we start with, how did you get into this industry? And just hearing their stories of like, well, this was happening. And then I just said, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm changing it. I'm embracing this. I'm just going for it. I'm doing it. And the way that their voices changed, the way that their energy changed, you could see it in just the way they were holding themselves on video, just the way that they like lit up when they made that transition into doing the work that they really wanted to do, that they were passionate about, that they felt made a difference in the world. Improved lives in a really solid, tactile, provable way. And that just made all the difference. And it was just so incredible to see that over and over and over again in guest after guest after guest. And then to hear, most of them didn't have quite as much to lose as say Ricky Lake did with, having her hospital board appointments and these kinds of things. But then to see somebody who still didn't care. And was just like, you know what? Yeah, I had a lot to lose on that front, but like I would do it all over again. In fact, I am doing it all over again. We're doing another version of the business of birth control. Or the business of being bored. We're doing the updated, what's changed in, the last 15 years version. And it was just like, not only did she do it, but she doubled down and is doing it again. And it was just like,
yeah. No, you're so right. Like just that moment that we've all had, like, okay, this is not working anymore. I'm going to change what I can, changing the system, making an impact. And that's how you change the world. That's how you start. You have an idea, you get so settled and grounded with that, like that's your thing. Like we're going to make changes. And it's really incredible to witness that, to be a witness to that.
Yeah. It was really amazing. I'm loving it. And then I've also been really enjoying just being able to nerd out and deep dive into topics with you. Like, it's just fun it's fun because it's something that we did anyway.
Yes.
And now we get to actually use it and help other people with it. So it's like, we had these nerdy conversations before, but now we actually get to help other people. And then to get the, the feedback, like, love this episode, or, I got messages after my episode about my story with endometriosis. I got some messages that were like, thank you so much for sharing your story and being willing to talk about it, because I felt really isolated. And I don't know that I want to get out there and share my story with the world, but I'm really grateful for people like you who do share it. So, and I got a really long email from somebody who was just like, I'm so thankful that you shared all that information, because I've never been able to tell my story to anybody, but I think that you're probably the one person that I could share. So I hope you don't mind, but. And then she sent me this really long email with her entire, journey through the medical system and endometriosis and what happened. And I mean, I was like crying and laughing. I went on a whole emotional roller coaster reading that email, because it was a real long journey that she went through. And I was, like tears in my eyes, and then, laughing because she was like, but then, the gallows humor that comes with endo. And, it was just like, I didn't even know what to say back. Like, I didn't have the words to communicate like how much her message touched me, and felt like I was just so thankful that, I was able to be that person for her. And I just was like, I kind of think I emailed her back and was just like, oh my God, I have tears in my eyes. I was just incredible. So it's those little things. Like I've always said, if I only do one thing in my business, and that's save one person from the amount of pain that I went through, I would feel satisfied. And to this day, every time one person sends me that message, one person sends me that email, one person sends me that DM, it's like, right, this is why I did this. This is 100% worthwhile. And that I'm glad we put out that episode. I know, like you doing your episode, it was like, sweating and like reliving the trauma, and just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I have to change and take a shower after the episode.
Oh my God. And like my brain just going blank and not remembering names of things and timing. It's like so crazy, because if you were to ask me on a call tomorrow, I could walk you through it. But it's so like cleansing too, like mentally, physically, emotionally. I felt things kind of like every time I do talk about it, which isn't really often anymore, just because I'm in a different phase. I've got toddlers, like my brain is not necessarily like always thinking about that. But when I'm able to cleanse the palette, right, the trauma palette, it does shed another layer off, and it does feel like I'm lighter in a way too, which is beautiful, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice to know that there are people out there who hear those episodes and are just like, oh, I don't feel as alone, or I don't feel as crazy, right? Like a lot of the infertility journey, a lot of menstrual issues, right? Anything that really is menstrual cycle woman, quote unquote, related, we get so gaslit and we feel so crazy. And then it turns out that no, we were absolutely right. And we weren't crazy, but you spend 10 years getting, gaslit, and people can't see it. They don't, it's not like you're physically, you don't have bruises on your skin. You don't have an open wound. It's all internal, but the pain level is insane, and people just don't see it. They don't understand it. So it's tough to get even empathy from the people around you, because they don't see it. There's no physical manifestation of it, other than maybe you're pale, or you're sweaty, or you're just in bed or whatever. And it's just not the same. So it is validating, I think, for people to hear that and to not feel quite as alone.
Definitely. And I even had a friend reach out being like, okay, can you ask Stasha how much ginger she makes when she's making her ginger tea? This is when you were out of the country. And I was like, she's not in the country right now, but I will check when she gets back. Like, was really listening and taking that to heart and being like, okay, well, I'm going to try this. Maybe it really helps me. And that's what I've loved about these conversations, is that we're being so real, we're being so honest, that anybody that's going through whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, something's going to resonate depending on your personal experience, what you've tried, what maybe you haven't tried. And that's the goal, is just really adding one or two things in based on what we're sharing, seeing if it helps and supports you and makes a difference in how you feel.
Yeah. And to answer that question, it's 3 tea bags per 16-ounce cup if I'm using tea bags. And if it's fresh ginger, it's as much as I can cram into a tea strainer, like a big one.
Awesome. I will tell her to listen to this episode. No, I'll send her a message.
A lot of times we do it by the pot, and I will just use the entire bag of ginger. So we'll get a bag of ginger from Trader Joe's. We just use the whole thing. Yeah. And then we make we use the tea kettle. So however many cups is in that, probably like 12 cups, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
In an electric kettle. We have one of those electric kettles that has the tea strainer that you can put into it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's really nice for making that ginger tea though, because then it brings it to a boil and then it just keeps it hot. So it's kind of simmering and seeping in. And then, I just leave it on all day.
That's amazing. I love it. Thank you. I'll definitely let her know. It's been so fun. I can't believe that it's been 4 months and honestly much longer, but we would love to hear from all of you. We would love to do an entire Q&A episode where we answer questions. What types of guests would you like to see? What sort of topics would you like Stasha and I to dive into a little bit more? So share with us, celebrate with us. We can't wait to see what happens in the next 4 months.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. I mean, we have some amazing interviews coming out in the next 4 months. We have some great topics that you and I are recording that'll be coming out in the next 4 months. I'm really quite excited for all of this. And one of the things that we're really looking forward to that are coming out towards the end of this is we're going to get into some back to school health, some blood sugar balancing. We're going to do episodes on things like snacks, breakfasts, lunch, protein, how to get enough protein in. Because I know Katie and I were just talking about how do we get all 30 grams of protein in at breakfast? And we're just having a whole conversation. And we were like, we should just do a podcast episode about that. So, charting, we've got an interview with Nicole Jardum coming out, an interview with Leah Zalvin, Lee from Period Pal. So there's really a lot coming out in the next 4 months and beyond. So yes, like Katie said, please send us your questions. It can be period related. It can be podcast related. Like if you have questions, behind the scenes questions. So send us questions. We definitely want to know. If you'd like to volunteer to be on the Period Besties podcast and get some coaching from the two of us, let us know if you want to be a volunteer and jump in. If you haven't, head on over to iTunes and leave a review, rate and review. It would be a big help. We haven't really been out asking people to do that, which we need to do. But we're going to take this opportunity to say, if you haven't gone and left a rating and a review, please head over and do that, because that would be a huge help for us. And it takes, a minute total. Just take your phone into the bathroom with you.
Super quick, super
scrolling. Do a little rate and review and then get back to your scrolling.
Yeah. Thank you for celebrating with us. We've had the best time. It's been such a dream. I really have loved doing this with you and with all of the listeners as well. Thank you for being here and supporting us. And let's celebrate. Woohoo!
Take a picture, celebrate with us, post it on the old Instagram, tag us. We'd love to celebrate with you.
Thank you all so much for being here, and we will see you in our next Period Besties episode coming next week. Bye for now.
A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bressack Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review, nothing less than the best for us besties, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bressack, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebressack.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.